From Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Saamiyah Syed. Our top story tonight, with U.S. federal student loan payments about to resume, 62% of students say they are likely to boycott repayments. Nearly half of the 1,000 borrowers surveyed by Intelligent.com believe a boycott could result in all of their student debt being forgiven. Loan payments are expected to resume in October after being paused for nearly 2 years due to the pandemic. A majority of borrowers are aware of the potentially serious consequences of not repaying their loans. More than 7 in 10 borrowers said they would need to take on additional work to resume repayments. Last August, President Joe Biden announced plans to forgive $10,000 to $20,000 in federal student loan debt for each borrower. But right-leaning Democrats in the Senate joined Republicans in trying to block Biden's plan. The president vetoed the measure. But in June, the right-leaning majority of the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the president's plan. The average federal student loan debt is $37,000. Students at public universities owe on average nearly $26,000 towards their bachelor's degree. The U.S. Consumer Protection Agency has unveiled plans to regulate the sale of personal data collected by companies. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau Director Rohit Chopra announced the initiative as part of a broader effort to improve data security and address risks associated with artificial intelligence. The agency will establish rules to prevent misuse of personal data by data brokers and ensure compliance with the Fair Credit Reporting Act. The Bureau intends to tighten disclosure of such data to protect the privacy of individuals, particularly vulnerable groups. The move follows years of concerns about the personal data security in the U.S., sparked by breaches such as the Cambridge Analytica scandal. Stricter privacy rules in China and the European Union have raised questions about U.S. policy. Congress has yet to pass major legislation safeguarding privacy. Chopra said the plan calls for defining any company that sells personal data as a consumer reporting agency. This would trigger enforcement of higher standards for accuracy, disputes, and abuse. Another plan would clarify issues related to credit data, which is used by credit reporting agencies and often includes sensitive personal information. Former U.S. President Donald Trump and 18 co-defendants indicted by a Georgia grand jury will be housed at the Fulton County Jail. The Fulton County Sheriff's Office announced the Fulton County Jail is being prepared to house the former president. The defendants have until August 25th to turn themselves in to law enforcement. The indictment stems from a phone call Trump made to Georgia's Secretary of State asking him to find 11,780 votes to win the 2020 presidential election. The indictment includes 41 counts and accuses Trump and his co-defendants, including Rudy Giuliani, of engaging in various criminal activities. Trump is charged with 13 felony counts, including violations of the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. This is the 4th indictment Trump has faced. The charges include hush money payments and obstructing an investigation. A Muslim advocacy group has called for a boycott of Erie Orchards and Cider Mill in Monroe County, Michigan, after the owner made Islamophobic remarks caught on video. A Muslim family, Yusuf Abu Jannah Mahmoud, his wife, and their 3 young daughters visited the orchard to pick peaches. An employee initially allowed the children to pick the fruit, saying it was free because of its poor quality. But owner Steve Elzinga accused the family of stealing and made derogatory remarks about Muslims. He was seen in a video saying, "Any Muslim who comes here is stealing from me." The incident sparked outrage among Arab American advocates and other Detroit residents. Dawood Walid, executive director of the Council on American Islamic Relations Michigan, warned the Muslim community and others against visiting Erie Orchards and Cider Mill. The family plans to file suit against Elzinga, claiming he violated criminal and civil laws. Elzinga later apologized for his comments and said he regretted making generalized remarks about Muslims. He claimed there had been a misunderstanding between the family and the staff regarding payment for the peaches they picked. The New Jersey Supreme Court ruled in favor of a Catholic school that fired an unmarried pregnant teacher in 2014. The teacher, Victoria Cristello, sued the school for discrimination and violation of New Jersey's anti-discrimination law. The state Supreme Court ruled the firing was legal because the law provides an exception for religious organizations. The ruling said the exemption clause was intended to allow religious organizations to follow the tenets of their religion in establishing and applying criteria for employment. The court said employees were required to abide by the rules of the Catholic Church, which includes abstaining from premarital sex. Civil rights groups argue the ruling could lead to discrimination against workers who do not adhere to the employer's religious beliefs. In New Jersey, an estimated 7,455 teachers are employed in Catholic schools. The court's decision would apply to all of those teachers. Cristello's attorney, Thomas McKinney, said he is considering appealing the decision to the U.S. Supreme Court. Democratic U.S. Congressman Khanna, currently traveling through India, has come under fire for a meeting with far-right Hindutva ideologue Abhijit Ivory Mitra. Iyer Mitra has been accused of spreading an Islamophobic narrative and calling Khanna's Muslim colleague, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, a jihadi. Khanna said he met with Iyer Mitra to defend his grandfather's legacy as a freedom fighter. The Indian American Muslim Council said it was deeply disappointed Khanna would engage with a far-right Islamophobe. Khanna said he would have met with Indian opposition leaders and minority representatives if the Indian government had authorized the meetings. He acknowledged the delegation's meetings had to be approved by India's Ministry of External Affairs. Activist Tushar Gandhi tweeted about his meeting with Khanna in Mumbai. In a series of tweets, he mentioned Khanna also met the father of Umar Khalid and representatives from violence-ravaged Manipur. Khalid, a former student leader, begins his 3-year prison sentence next month. The 8-member U.S. congressional delegation arrived last week for a visit to Mumbai and New Delhi. They attended Independence Day celebrations at the Red Fort, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi delivered his customary speech. Since Modi came to power in 2014, Muslims have faced increasing attacks, including lynchings on mere suspicion of cow smuggling. Many Muslim activists have been jailed for protesting the government's anti-Muslim policies. More on how the U.S. is deeply concerned by churches being targeted in Pakistan comes with details after the break, so stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. The U.S. said Wednesday it is deeply concerned by 2 churches in Pakistan being targeted after the Holy Quran allegedly was desecrated. State Department Deputy Spokesman Vedant Patel told reporters the U.S. supports peaceful freedom of expression. He said incidents of religiously motivated violence or the threat of violence are never an acceptable form of expression. He urged Pakistani authorities to conduct a full investigation into these allegations. Authorities in Pakistan have deployed paramilitary forces to restore law and arrested more than 100 alleged attackers. The interim Taliban government in Afghanistan has banned all political parties. Taliban Justice Minister Abdul Hakim Sherry said Sharia law has no place for political parties. Before the Taliban took control of Afghanistan in 2021, 73 different political parties were registered in the country. However, most of these parties have not been active since the Taliban took power. Banning political parties is another step towards consolidating the Taliban's power and suppressing dissent. Observers see it as a major setback for democracy in Afghanistan, threatening peace and stability. The Taliban justified the ban with their interpretation of Sharia law, but there is no consensus among Islamic scholars on whether political parties are prohibited under Sharia law. Many Islamic scholars believe political parties are a legitimate means of participating in the political process and ensuring government accountability. Police in Bangladesh have arrested more than 5,000 people protesting the custodial death of Dilawar Hussain Sayyidi, deputy leader of the Jamaat-e-Islami party. The 83-year-old Sayyidi died in custody Monday night in the Dhaka hospital. He had been convicted of crimes against humanity during Bangladesh's liberation war and was serving a life sentence. Jamaat-e-Islami has alleged Sayyidi died in prison due to lack of medical treatment. Police have denied these allegations. The party claimed police prevented its supporters from holding a funeral in absentia for Sayyidi, a violation of religious rights. Sayyidi's death has sparked protests and clashes between Jamaat supporters and the police. One person was killed and more than 100 injured in clashes with police in Cox's Bazar. British Muslims complain their bank accounts are being closed without explanation. Anas Al-Tikriti, head of the British think tank Cordoba Foundation, said his personal HSBC account and those of his family members were closed in 2014. His foundation's business and personal accounts at NatWest and Royal Bank of Scotland also were recently closed. Al-Tikriti believes he had been targeted for his activism, and this is part of a broader pattern of discrimination against British Muslims. The issue came to light after a feud broke out last month between British banks and right-wing populist politician Nigel Farage, whose accounts were also closed. Farage accused the banks of political bias. His case has led to calls for investigations into the treatment of British Muslims who have had their accounts blocked. The banks defended their actions, saying they merely are following anti-money laundering and anti-terrorism regulations. Critics claim the banks are using these regulations as a pretext to discriminate against British Muslims. A prominent human rights organization has accused Iranian authorities of targeting Sunni sectarian leaders for speaking out against state violence. A report published by the Center for Human Rights in Iran claims Iran is violating Iranian and international law by targeting Sunni religious leaders. The report calls on the Iranian government to stop persecuting Sunni religious leaders. It mentions the case of Maulawi Ibrahim Hassan Zahi, a Baloch Sunni cleric arrested in February on his way home from the mosque. He remains in detention and is reportedly being tortured. Another example is the case of Mimosa Saifullah Hosseini, a Kurdish Sunni religious leader arrested after giving a speech at the funerals of two protesters who were shot dead. According to the report, persecution of Sunni religious leaders is particularly acute in the Kurdish provinces and in Sistan and Balochistan province, bordering Pakistan. According to the report, persecution often is carried out by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Also, according to the report, the Iranian government uses the persecution of Sunni religious leaders to suppress dissent and maintain its power. The report is the latest in a series of reports documenting human rights abuses in Iran. Extreme temperatures, heat waves, and forest fires are wreaking havoc in various parts of Turkey, particularly in the Eskişehir province. The mercury has risen to a record 49.5 degrees Celsius or 121 degrees Fahrenheit in the province. Turkey's Minister of Environment, Urbanization, and Climate Change called for public awareness to combat climate change. Turkish newspaper Hürriyet reported the ministry has advised people to stay indoors during the hottest hours of the day. In recent days, forest fires have been reported in several provinces, including Bolu, Bingöl, Denizli, and Antalya. Helicopters, airplanes, land vehicles, water tanks, and firefighters have been involved in firefighting efforts. No fatalities have been reported so far, but large areas have been burned. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.